Thank you, Drew. I expect that there will be a few people who come on board as we go along, but there's no reason we can't do introductions now. I'll start, even though my name says Jay Spillman. I'm not sure I need to change that. Janet Spillman, I'm the planning director at SCTA. And before we go any further, I'd like to introduce a new member of the SCTA, David, who's 3 boxes down from me on my screen. David, can you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Rippera. I'm the new Assistant Director of Projects and Programming at SCTA, and looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you. And we'll do a few more SCTA introductions since we're on a roll now. Would like to go next?
I can go. I'm Tanya Nara, Director of Climate Programs for the RCPA.
Thank you, Tanya.
I'll jump in here. This is BC Caps with the RCPA, working with Tanya on the Sonoma Climate Mobilization Strategy.
And Chris Barney with SCTA.
Terrific. All right, should we go north to south or south to north? Let's go north to south. Cloverdale, please.
Hi, Kevin Thompson with the City of Cloverdale.
And Rafael Miranda, City of Cloverdale.
Morning, everybody. I'm Scott Diven. I'm today a senior planner with the City of Healdsburg, but as of Monday, I will be the Community Development Director for the City of Healdsburg. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Looking forward to the new challenge.
Windsor.
I am Jessica Jones. I'm the Community Development Director. Like Scott, I'm a short timer here. I will be at the town for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll be heading back to the city of Santa Rosa.
Whoa, Jessica.
Woo woo! And I'm Kim Vogue. I'm left behind here at Windsor, planner in the Community Development Department for Windsor.
Sebastopol, maybe?
Sebastopol. Yeah, thank you, Janet. Sorry. Carrie Swanson, Planning Director for the City of Sebastopol. And I have a new associate planner who you may see here from time to time, John Jay, who came to us as he was doing contract planning services for the City of Santa Rosa. So small world.
Is there anyone from Santa Rosa here? I know Amy's on vacation today.
She's not going on vacation. Her little girl had an accident, broke some bones, and is in a lot of pain. So that's why she's not here.
Okay. All right. So no Santa Rosa. I'm looking at you, Noah.
Sorry, Noah House, City of Cotati, CD Director, running late this morning. My apologies.
And I just heard from Amy Nicholson at the City of Santa Rosa. She should be joining us shortly.
Terrific.
This is Jeff, City of Roanoke Park. I think we're technically north of Cotati.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Petaluma? Do we have anybody? Petaluma? Sonoma?
Scott Orr, Deputy Director of Planning at County of Sonoma. And I wish that I could be the new sheriff helicopter pilot, but I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. Let's go on to our partners here. Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily Betts, Principal Planner with SMART.
Ada?
Hello, Ada Chan with ABAG MTC.
Caltrans?
Hi, this is Orlando. I'm Transportation Planner for District 4.
And members of, oh, I see Petaluma's on the line. Hello, Heather.
Good morning.
And Steve, good morning.
Good morning, it's Steve Bertlbaugh with the Transportation and Land Use Coalition.
And I see a box with Tom Conlon's name. Looks like he's trying to reach us. In the meanwhile, is there anyone I missed? Hi, Tom. Hi, Tom. Okay. Anybody else? No, good.
Jane Riley, Napa Sonoma Housing Collaborative.
Jane, I'm sorry. Everybody knows Jane. I apologize. Okay, approval of the agenda. Changes, additional discussion items, anything, anyone? And then let's take the next one, review of meeting notes from August 19th, the last meeting. Any comments, questions, changes? All right, then these are action items. Can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve both of them.
Thank you.
Second.
Terrific. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thumbs up. All right. Thank you for that. Now we go on to our item 3, VMT mitigation reduction calculator. I believe that's Chris Barney.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Just a quick update on the VMT mitigation and reduction calculator project. So we took a contract amendment to our board earlier this month for approval to extend our contract with Fair and Peers and expand the scope to include the work on the VMT reduction calculator. So that was approved. So we've been able to update that contract and now have Fair and Peers on board to complete that work. So Julie Morgan is going to be heading up the VMT reduction calculator project. If you know Julie, she's worked on similar projects in other counties and for different jurisdictions in the Bay Area. So glad to have Julie on board. So we're doing some ramp up on the SCTA side with Fair and Peers in October and November. And then we're looking at doing a kickoff meeting with you guys, the PAC and the TAC members in December. And we were thinking it would be most efficient to have a combined meeting with the planners and the engineering folks. And we were looking at the afternoon of December 2nd for having a kickoff meeting with Fair and Peers after the next TAC meeting. So that would be from 3 to 4 p.m. on December 2nd. So maybe check your calendars and let me know if that is going to be a problem, and we can look for other dates. One other thing, so I think I've been able to contact most folks about the billings and local contributions. So we'll be working on getting those out soon as well. Yeah, so happy to field any questions at this time, and looking forward to seeing everyone at the kickoff meeting where we'll be able to work with Fair and Peers on the specific needs for the jurisdictions here in Sonoma County. So,
Chris, you heard back from Petaluma, right?
We did, yeah. Olivia
okay,
was able to
Great.
get back to me. Yep. So more to come soon.
Great, thank you, Chris. I forgot that I'm leading this meeting. Okay, so the next item is the PDA investment growth strategy update, and that's me. MTC, I think I brought this to the last agenda, and I said that I'd be talking to you, and then I went on vacation. So it's largely a matter of us pulling together information we already have and then talking to you individually about verifying it. So I will be doing that in the next 2 weeks. Expect emails from me about that. So item number 5. Is there anybody who would like to address RHNA or the Plan Bay Area EIR update? Did Ada leave us?
No, Ada's here.
I'm here. I guess I answered questions offline yesterday, so I assume that got around, or
I'm sorry, what?
I answered, I guess I don't know what happened, but yesterday I got a bunch of questions related to RHNA appeals. And so those hearings are going on. The final numbers will be sent out. I think letters will be coming out in end of November, early December. In terms of but the approval by the board will occur in December in terms of finalizing those numbers. We have 2 more days of appeals. So And thus far, I think only one has been approved. And that's been related to an annexation. And the Plan Bay area will be finalized at the end of this month. So I guess not here, but Solano County was asking for some presentations and having to explain that where we were on the timeline.
No burning questions about RHNA or Plan Bay area?
So I was one of the offline questions, mostly just out of curiosity, and I was asking if there was any place where they were actually posting the results, and it sounds like the results aren't actually final until the end of the appeal stuff, and presumably then there'll be a press release or something coming out for us all to just know. I've just been seeing stuff in the paper and was curious.
But I got 3 emails, actually, not just from you, Carrie. So I texted the RHNA folks. I'm like, what happened? Like this morning, I opened up my computer and it was all requests about that.
It was a full moon.
If only that explained the RHNA.
I'm sure there's some mystical reason for all of this. All right, then. I will be taking that off the agenda as a standing item for the next meeting. So now we come to the RCPA Sonoma Climate Mobilization Strategy. And I believe, Tanya, that's you.
Yep, I will start us off and ask BC to chime in as well. But actually, Drew, could I share something on my screen? Just wanted to share one of the handout or the attachment.
Yep, now you can.
Great, thank you. All right. So BC and I wanted to check in with all of you today. We have been, as you know, working on the Sonoma Climate Mobilization Strategy and really focusing in on the areas that our board had prioritized for us to focus on in the near term or over the next year or so, based on its adoption of the strategy in March of 2021. So we wanted to talk with you today about two topic areas. One, to get your feedback on some of the priorities around policy work that you would like us to be focused on based on the priorities in your jurisdictions. And then second, get your feedback on the best way to coordinate with you and your teams, recognizing that everyone has a lot on their plates, and really wanted to get your feedback on the best methods to coordinate the work that we're doing. So I'll start with the implementation priorities. And so I mentioned that our board had identified a couple of strategies for RCPA to focus on. And so I've highlighted on this attachment that we included those strategies that we've been looking into or working on recently. And so they really are in the main 2 areas are under building decarbonization and transportation decarbonization. So we're now looking at which of these policy opportunities would make the most sense for us to do work on and partner with your organizations on. And so there's a couple of examples that I included in the staff report. So there's expanding the all-electric reach codes. We know that a number of jurisdictions have already adopted these and others have expressed interest. They're starting to look at how we're going to tackle really the larger challenge I think that we face, which is how to advance energy efficiency and electrification in our existing buildings, which is a huge existing building stock. And I know the city of Petaluma is already starting to tackle this challenge and look at how to do it in the most equitable way. And there's some example policies listed here, looking at benchmarking, building performance standards, and even going to the point of looking at some kind of date certain mandates for those upgrades. And then in the transportation space, looking at policies that would help continue the acceleration of charging station implementation. So the idea of EV ready reach codes, looking at the improvements or advancements that are being made in the next version of Cal Green and how that will impact our EV charging requirements. Looking at workplace charging, I know that there's some jurisdictions interested in encouraging and supporting more workplace charging, and also looking at fleet electrification and fleet charging strategies. So those are a couple of examples of the policies that have come up for RCPA in terms of feedback that we've heard so far. And so we wanted to get your thoughts in terms of priorities. I guess the other area that I should mention that BC has been working on and actually held a meeting last week with a number of the planning staff is the gas station bans. And so we are continuing our work to support jurisdictions who are interested in those gas station bans. So I'll stop there. And BC, is there anything that you would want to add in terms of the policy priorities?
No, I think the only thing that I maybe could add was obviously we have been given our priorities for work from our governing board, and that's kind of where we're taking our direction from. There are a number of items within the strategy, which even though they haven't been adopted as priorities, I do think that there is current and active work that we can be chipping away on. And so I think, at least in my mind, some of those are kind of part of the larger picture as well, even though they're not top of the list right now. And the one that really jumps to my mind, there's a lot of work going on across jurisdictions on climate adaptation plans. And there's a lot of work going on just general plan updates. And so I just wanted to make sure those were kind of part of the overall discussion, even if they are not our top priorities right now. So great, thanks, Tanya.
Sure. So Heather, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. The equity impact assessment that is in the topics notes on the last one before transportation. Under the notes, it says an equity impact assessment. Is that something that exists, or is that something that you're saying would be developed?
Would be something to be developed.
Okay.
I think there's some examples in other jurisdictions, but nothing here in Sonoma County that I'm aware of. So, yeah,
I would love if you even have some ideas of where examples are. I would love to know that. This is something that really thinking about, how to make sure that the policies we're putting into place aren't impacting, certain people harder than other people when we're trying to do the right thing. And then my other question, something that I'm wondering, and it's kind of related, and I don't know if it's later in here, but kind of the primo tree preservation, urban forest management kind of plan. Does anyone have any examples of great tree preservation ordinances? We're finding in Petaluma that ours is really kind of antiquated, and it doesn't, at the times we want the ordinance to kind of back us up, we don't have that backup with our ordinance. So I'm wondering if anyone has any exemplary ones that they've looked at.
Yeah, we haven't done any research on that, Heather, but that could be an area that we could make a contribution. So we're curious to hear from other folks if that's an area of interest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Emily.
Hi, I'm wondering where for the transportation, where mode shift fits into this, bike, ped, transit, whatever that may be.
Yes, so that would fit under our Drive Less campaign, and we don't have that listed here because it wasn't something that our board had prioritized for immediate focus, but it is an area that we see ourselves working on closely with SCTA because as you we know, the SCTA just recently, our board recently adopted the revised comprehensive transportation plan, and that has a whole set of strategies in the appendix around greenhouse gas reduction, including mode shift and a number of other strategies. And so that is an area that we would like to focus on, but it's not on this list because it wasn't highlighted by our board as one of the top priorities for the near term. But that doesn't mean there wouldn't be work going on there. So.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Noah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm wondering, has anybody or is anyone that's on this panel familiar with what's going to be coming down in the state update for the building code? So the reason I'm asking is just, my resources are very limited here in Cotati, and so I'm trying to not duplicate work. And it's my understanding a lot of mandates are already going to be baked into that code update that we're all going to be adopting. And so to me, I just don't see it as something I'm going to prioritize until I know exactly what's there, and then we could fill in gaps.
Yeah.
So just, I'm wondering if anybody has knowledge on that now. I'm starting to research it, but I'm not knowledgeable on it. And then we are moving forward with prioritization, as I mentioned in the meeting, I think it was Monday. We're going to move forward with asking our council to help us shuffle our priorities. We had talked to them about a greenhouse gas reduction strategy, and it had a number of menu options, and I think gas station bans are going to rise to the top. We're going to move forward with that. But I liked Heather's question about the tree ordinance. Heather, I have not seen a good one actually anywhere, frankly. And so I think we're all kind of due for a good update. And one thing that I've been thinking about is we all have these mitigation penalties for when folks cut down trees without permits. And we have these accounts where we have money that in theory is going to plant trees, but I don't know anybody who has a very comprehensive program to do that. And so that's something that I actually think you guys might be able to help us with at RCPA. If we all had a place to put our funding, and then there was like a, Arbor Day, here's a bunch of trees to plant, or if you're interested, there's a fund to plant certain types of trees. Like that seems like it could be a cool program that there's money for, but probably not a lot of staff work being spent on. So that's where I'm at right now.
Like combine funds to develop a exemplary tree preservation, urban forest management kind of ordinance / plan that each individual jurisdiction could adopt or tweak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think we all are in a place where we need to update our ordinances. We've been talking about it, but it hasn't, it's just never gets up to the priority. And frankly, it's messy anytime you do it because there's a lot of people that get angry. But it's something that I think could be beneficial. Then if it was standardized across the county, that's helpful for everyone.
Yeah.
And then also the replanting, because that's one thing that we've struggled with too, is like, okay, well, we penalize you if you cut them down without a permit. And there's a chunk of money that we have, and there's no mechanism for us to feed that back out into paying for trees to get planted.
Okay, great. So Noah, to your first point around the updates to the building code, that is definitely an area that RCPA could help support. And actually through BayREN, there's a codes and standards group or meeting that takes place. And so we could certainly leverage that. So would definitely, support the RCPA, doing that research and then being able to share that with all of you so that you're not having to do that work yourselves. And also that would need to be kind of a starting point in terms of any REACH codes that we looked at here. We definitely would not want to duplicate efforts or something that's coming out fairly soon. So that's a great point. And thank you also for the tree concept. So Jeff.
Well, I guess just to stay on the tree topic, we did go to the city council a couple weeks ago to talk about our climate change element that we're doing for our general plan. And one of the action steps in there is along the lines of what Heather was suggesting, kind of an urban tree management plan to be kind of an early implementation item. So if that was like, countywide, that'd be even better, I would think, or there could be some coordination there. But my main point is also what came out of this study session was related to the electrification of buildings. I think our council is supportive of that and definitely in support of kind of new building codes that maybe would be a little bit more stringent. However, there's this language in there about kind of requiring existing buildings to retrofit. I'm not even sure how you would do that. I don't think you're going to be going around knocking on people's doors and asking them to tell them that you're going to be disconnecting their gas furnace today. So I think maybe that should be more towards kind of the incentive side or the gradual transition side. I'm not sure we would have a legal mechanism to kind of require that people get rid of their gas furnaces, for example.
Yeah, there are some policy tools like point of sale, which is not, from feedback I've heard, is not a very popular topic, but that's an example of a policy that could be explored as a way of triggering those upgrades, or looking at if someone is doing a major renovation, some requirement around doing upgrades at that time. So
I think those might be those might have some legs, but the kind of the way that that's worded, require 25%, require 100%. I'm not sure you'd ever be able to get to that point. So
That's our challenge.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, that would be concern of our city.
Mhm,
So.
okay. Thank you. All right, anything else from your, no? Okay, Jane.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm carrying a message here from the Director of Permit Sonoma about reach codes specifically, and especially about 1.2B banning all gas and propane. And his message is pretty simple. You cities do what you want and leave the rural folks alone. He feels it's both an affordability issue and an equity issue, and that this isn't something that we can impose on rural areas of the county where we don't have electricity available at a reasonable cost.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, great point.
And I love the tree thing. And the county's working on a tree ordinance right now.
Yes, yeah, I know that you are. All right, Carrie.
Yeah, this is actually about the tree, which I think is an excellent idea. I had actually started in my previous position working with our fire chief on a couple of different fronts. You know, there's the urban forestry front and the replanting. And then there's also he was working on, and I think this might be of interest to other folks as well, banning certain paraphytic trees and also providing a program for people to remove paraphytic trees. And maybe that's, you know, one concept we had discussed was, could you do that in place of replanting? So say you have a big eucalyptus tree on your property and you want to take out some other trees, some oak trees. Well, could one of the requirements be that? A couple of things, CAL FIRE, from one of our contract arborists, put me in touch with someone from CAL FIRE. They do have an urban forestry fund, and that could be a way of paying for this type of program, especially if we do it as a countywide program. It's, you know, this is advocacy for trees, but also doing it in a way that manages the fire concerns surrounding them. I know I personally have gotten questions from residents who are interested in removing some of the paraphytic trees like eucalyptus, and just because they are so expensive to remove, same with some of the other, once they get to be a certain size, it's just pretty cost prohibitive. If there was a program to help fund that, which would potentially be through, you know, CAL FIRE or some of the mitigation and vegetation management funds, that could be, I think, really helpful as a component of it. And yeah, in addition, yeah, I think, Noah, you're absolutely right. On a local level, we ask, you know, Public Works, hey, where do you need trees? And I'd allocate part of our tree replacement fund in lieu fees when people don't replant on site for him to plant trees around town, but a bigger strategy would be great.
The only thing I'd say about, and I like the idea of a sort of a countywide tree standards, just not sure every city feels the same way about tree preservation. So might be a little harder for us. We just did a tree ordinance just a couple years ago. Before that, they didn't even have one. So anyway.
Great. I do want to go back to, if there's no other immediate questions, something that Emily brought up, which is around mode shift. And I did want to mention that SCTA, through the shift plan and some follow-on work that was done there, did develop a draft TDM ordinance. And so that is something that we could bring back forward if there's interest by any jurisdictions in taking a look at that. There was a lot of good work done as part of the shift plan, and I'm not sure, you know, kind of what happened there, or if there just wasn't the interest maybe in moving that forward at the time, but it is a tool that we have that we could pull back up again and take a look at it if there's interest across the jurisdiction. So is that something that anyone would be interested in taking a look at? I'm seeing Jane nod her head. I can't see everybody. Actually, let me stop sharing my screen and then I can see everybody. So would a TDM ordinance be something of interest to take a look at? Yes, I'm seeing a few heads nod. Okay, well, we'll add that to our list for consideration. So I heard a lot of interest in something around tree ordinances and looking at the potential of doing something there countywide. I heard some interest around the REACH codes of really looking at what's coming up in the next building code and understanding how that, could impact what we're thinking about doing. Didn't really hear anyone interested in doing much work around that currently, and also some concerns and questions around the existing buildings. And so I think existing buildings might be a space where RCPA could do some research and look at what policy tools are available and might be good for consideration. But it doesn't sound like that's a high priority at this point, other than I think, Heather, you mentioned the equity and really wanting to understand what tools are out there, what could be used around equity and electrification. So that would be something on our list.
And Tanya, you know that Petaluma is very interested in our existing building stock, and we're working on it very actively. We also, in the ordinance that we did adopt, we do require moving to electric when you have 50% or more in terms of a large scale addition or renovation. So we're doing everything we can, and that seems to be, for Petaluma, that's just kind of the constant. Yeah, you did the all new, for all new construction, but what about the 20,000 existing homes? So thanks.
Great, thank you.
Well, and I think in terms of the tree ordinance, I think maybe the urban forestry management plan might be a better terminology, or maybe use both those terms, because tree ordinance is a little bit narrow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I do think it's really important to have them both. You need the teeth of an ordinance. You need a plan or a strategy, but you also, I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but when someone comes in and they're like, I want to remove this tree, and I have nothing to say, well, you can't. And then the neighborhood comes unglued because they're removing a tree, it's.
Yeah, so it's a model ordinance.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Carrie, do you have another question? Is your hand?
Just another input on topics, and I'll just reiterate what the topic that came up last week with BC Caps and yourself at the I think it was the gas station ban meeting. One of the things that would also be helpful in that regard that came up was outside of the gas station ban, does anyone have regulations that would encourage and lay out requirements for EV charging stations, like large scale, standalone, if we're not doing gas stations, do we have EV charging stations, not just, like Sebastopol has requirements when you do new development to have them in as a proportion of your parking. But I'm talking about if a business model were to come into town for that kind of a thing. And so that came up at that meeting. And I think a couple of us were definitely interested in that, so that we could make sure, especially for those of us who are doing the gas station ban, okay, can we put those other regulations, get those up as a model ordinance to put in, so that people aren't just passing us by thinking, oh, they just don't want any new vehicle infrastructure.
Yeah, good. Noah.
It's funny. Gary read my mind, even though EV charging, I think, it should be a top priority for this group. And I'm less worried about kind of coming up with a regulation for a new EV charging, like, for lack of a better term, get fuel station, but just the thresholds of what percentages are appropriate for different use types, commercial, multifamily, how that's shared, just all those things. And as somebody who has an EV, that limits the lack of charging infrastructure, limits how much I can drive my car, like, just bottom line. So I think that is something that's critical for us all to be able to feel comfortable transitioning from fossil fuels. And then Heather, to your point, ours is actually pretty solid on rules and prohibitions on removals. And we put a lot of emphasis on native trees, especially oaks. So if you're looking for just some teeth, ours is good on teeth, but it's just everything else in ours needs work.
Okay, great. So any other comments or inputs on priorities? If not, I'll move to the second topic, which is around coordination. Yeah, Tom? No?
Thank you. I was just gonna make a few comments. I didn't want to do it until it's truly public comment or most helpful.
Yeah, maybe at the end.
At the end of this section. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, so let me move to the coordination question. So I mentioned the staff report that RCPA is currently hosting countywide what we call our members and partners meeting, which is representatives from all of the jurisdictions, as well as our partner agencies like Sonoma Clean Power, Sonoma Water, Ag and Open Space. And so we do those every other month. And the purpose of those is really to share information with our members and partners about the mobilization strategy, RCPA priorities. We've had some, presenters come and talk about specific topics. For example, at our next meeting, I think we'll have Ag and Open Space come give an update on their Vital Lands Initiative and climate work. And then it's an opportunity for members to share information with each other. Then we also schedule working group meetings like the meeting that happened last week around the gas station ban, so focused on specific topics. We have come periodically to this group to give updates on the mobilization strategy. And then I mentioned that BayREN is coordinating a codes and standards meeting, which currently from Sonoma County, we have representation from the Energy and Sustainability Division, typically attends those meetings, but they are open to any jurisdiction in the county. So I'd be happy to share information about those if you have an interest in attending. So the question here today is really, what would be the best way for us to work with you and your teams? Again, knowing that there's a lot going on, would you recommend that we continue looking at specific working groups on topic areas, like, for example, the urban forest topic that came up, EV charging, et cetera? Or do you think it would make more sense for us to convene some regular meeting with planners to talk about all of the policy related priorities that are currently underway? And then how would you like to see these topics brought to this group? And it could be some combination of those, or if you have any recommendations or preferences on how best to coordinate these efforts, we would greatly appreciate that. So I'll open it up for, actually, BC, anything that you would want to add to that?
I think the only thing I would add is I went ahead and scheduled the meeting last week on the gas station ban because we're trying to make quick progress. But even as I was scheduling that, I felt like that it is not an acceptable practice for me to be calling a meeting on Monday on one topic, a meeting on Tuesday on a different topic, and then bothering everybody again on Thursday and Friday on a third topic. And so during that discussion, it became very apparent that we could really utilize this body and our other regular meetings to just have a much more streamlined approach. So very interested to hear the suggestions that come from the group now.
Well, generally speaking, I would prefer less meetings, which I'm sure everyone is in agreement there. But I do appreciate the work. It's just, yeah, less would be better, and just from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Consolidation. Most of us have 2, maybe 3 staff. So when we get pulled into meetings, it's better to group them and be able to go through things efficiently.
You got 3 staff, Carrie? Wow.
I'm including myself, but I only have 2 here in the office right now.
Great. Any other?
I think, consolidated meeting, BC, would be fine, like with just an agenda and just we can go down the topics. And what I would appreciate is maybe being able to provide some input before they get presented to your guys' board. So then you could say, hey, this is the menu and here's what the other jurisdictions have expressed, not just interest, but ability to respond to, and also what they're hearing from their councils as priorities. Because then if we can align those things, I think we can actually get some traction on it. And one of the things I was going to bring up is, you guys have your list that I know your board was really instrumental in providing, but we all have a number of policies in all of our general plans, the climate action plan work that we've already done. And so it may be worth you guys taking some time to kind of comb through everybody's existing policies, find out where there's alignment, and then remind us all that we've committed to doing these things and point out if we're all aligned. And then we could then use that to present to our decision makers as we have our policy discussions and prioritization discussions.
Any other thoughts in terms of meetings? It sounds like fewer meetings is better, and so we can certainly package up topics that we'd like to discuss or that we think there would be value in coordination. And I'm thinking those might be, so I guess the question would be, would you want us to do that with this group, or is that more of a separate meeting that we'd schedule with your planning staff? Or it just depends on kind of where we're at in our process.
I personally am fine either way. You know, you guys already kind of work together, SCTA and RCPA, and well, I'm assuming you do anyway.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and so you guys could coordinate and work with Janet to find a good agenda that would fit in, that also works with your guys' schedules.
Okay.
From my perspective, that would be fine.
I agree. No, I don't think there's one way to do it. Obviously, we all have a lot of meetings. So
Yeah, no, I think
if we can group it in, that's great. Like we're doing right now. But I also know that in this meeting, oftentimes at 10, and I'm gonna have to drop off at 10, half of us, you know, have to move on. So I think it would make sense to have it really focused on that if we're gonna make some progress on something, on specifics.
Just to ask, would it be a good thing, do you think, to start the meeting a little bit earlier? This meeting at 8:30, 8:45, give us a little bit breathing space, or is that?
Well, I'm sure everybody would love that at an earlier meeting.
It's fine with me. I start at 7. So. No,
I do start work at 9. So, but you know, I can do one off here, there. I just juggle my kids in the morning, but.
Agreed.
All right.
I'll agree. And it, you know, it may be helpful because now you're just doing one agenda in minutes instead of 2 sets. And hopefully that cuts down on RCPA, SCTA work too. I know I do that with a couple of boards where it's the same people, but different topics. We just combine our design review and our tree board together. And it cuts down on you guys' work too.
We'll start at 9 and talk fast.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all. Very much appreciate your feedback. And so BC and I will take your inputs and go back and look at our kind of priority list and come back, I think, with a recommendation in terms of how we would want to proceed. And I think, Noah, your comment is an excellent one about taking a look at what's already happening, what policies you already have in place, and then using that to build something that we could bring back to our board, you know, possibly in December or January, to give kind of an update and seek their input and direction. So really appreciate all of your inputs. So I'll turn it back over to you, Janet. And I think maybe Tom had a comment. So.
Great, thank you. I'm buoyed by this conversation. I think this group really is an excellent, there's a lot of creativity and capacity in this group. So there's opportunity for really solving a lot of the concerns that get bantered about at the board level without the depth that this group has to solve them. So now that things are starting to move, I think these conversations need to be happening here. I'm very excited to see that happening today. Specifically to some of the policies that were discussed, the priority policies, just remind everybody that the gas station ban, the question really is, how do we prioritize your time most effectively at the staff level? And if you look out at the consumption data, it's actually been relatively flat. It's not like we have a demand for gasoline that's rapidly growing and it's expecting to go down. So the need for new gas station infrastructure just, in my opinion, really isn't there. And so it's a way not to waste staff's time on land use petitions, land use applications that won't be producing the most benefit to your constituents. I was concerned by Jane's comment about the all-electric reach code. I think there may be a need for some more education there. The cost implications of remaining dependent on the natural gas system is something we need to be looking at long-term in the county. The E3 research that's been commissioned by the California Energy Commission shows that as the natural gas infrastructure ages, and as more and more people do go all electric and abandon that system, there will be fewer and fewer people supporting that aged infrastructure base, and that it's going to become extremely expensive for the people who are stuck left on the old system. So we need to be getting in front of this here in this county. And that's something I will try to take up with really anybody that wants to look into that issue. And then on the very difficult problem of existing building decarbonization, this is something I worked on years ago, early on, and it is a thorny issue. There are trigger points, as Tanya mentioned, in the point of sale, the point of major retrofit, the point of utility service transfer, although that probably would take state level policy to fix. And there's also precedent in, for example, earthquake retrofit. There are some places that have decided that it's such a health and safety issue that you need to mandate times, date certain building retrofits for earthquake safety. So it's not the kind of thing I think we could have in 6 months, but it's something we definitely need to be working on, being creative about how to do that here and building up the contractor and planning processes so that they can move that quickly. So thanks for consideration and comments.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, so now we move on to the roundtable discussion where we all tell each other what we're up to. And I'd like for the people who have hard stops to volunteer to go first, if that's possible. Let us know what's going on in your office.
Sure, I can go first. I have a hard stop at 10 o'clock. Again, this is Jessica Jones with Windsor. We're super busy in Windsor. Our housing element is underway. We just had our first community workshop last week. We've had so many night meetings, they're all blending together right now, but I'm pretty sure that one was last week. We've got a joint meeting of our commission and council to go over the housing element update scheduled for November 9th. And we're currently working on our inventory and trying to locate sites. We are planning for our 994 units, but I think as most people know, the town at the request of our council did appeal our RHNA. And so we are scheduled, I think, with Sonoma County for our appeals hearing on October 29th. Our mayor will be representing Windsor. He was the one that was really wanting to appeal. So he'll be taking that charge. Anyway, but we are going ahead and planning for what our current draft is. Also underway is our zoning ordinance update. We've had a couple of joint meetings and a recent community workshop on that one as well. That is a housing focused update. We're using our LEAP grant for that process. And we're also folding in an update to our inclusionary housing ordinance. We're working on short-term vacation rentals, and we've got our, we've had a pretty good, robust outreach process for the short-term vacation rentals. We're taking it to our planning commission for recommendation to council in a few weeks. And we're keeping all of our digits crossed that we do not have a public hearing as long as what Santa Rosa just went through for their short-term vacation rentals. So, but it has been a hot topic for us here in Windsor. We're working on our VMT policies. We just had a joint meeting, sorry about that, just had a joint meeting with our commission and council on VMT, which was a robust conversation. I think that the commission and council finally their eyes were open to the fact that VMT is here. And it was a wake-up call for them. So they were not pleased at the impact that may have on our housing development in particular. But we're working through that process, and we're going to be reaching out to the community next. There's so much going on. I'm trying to think. We recently approved a new 100% affordable housing project on the corner of Shiloh and Old Redwood Highway. We've got several other 100% affordable projects underway, a few others that were recently approved. We've got a large subdivision that was just recently submitted to the town at the north end of town. We're working on a supplemental EIR for that, primarily because of the VMT impacts that we're anticipating. There's lots of other development happening here in Windsor, so we're just we've got a ton going on, just like everybody else, you know, always short-staffed, just trying to make it through. So I think that's about it for now.
Jessica, who is working on your VMT?
W-Trans.
I'll jump in because I also have a hard stop at 10. We are in Petaluma, we're fully moving forward with our general plan update. So right now, we are finalizing our existing conditions reports. And we've been doing a lot of outreach and visioning, which is a very different thing to navigate fully online, you know. So we had a visioning workshop that was trying to do the kind of open house style where you kind of come in and you can go into different rooms to talk about different things, and doing that all on Zoom. So it was interesting. I think it went as well as could be expected. You know, you had the couple people who kept saying, I can't get my hand to raise, or I can't figure out how to get in room 2. But overall, I think we had a good turnout, and it was successful. So that is keeping us very busy, and starting to also look at our sites for the next round. We have 1,900 units we're anticipating coming at us with the RHNA, and we also have a very strong community statement of wanting to see no development in the floodplain, where our current ordinance allows you to build in the floodplain if you do certain things. So looking at how to have all those land come out that's in the floodplain and how we still meet that RHNA is going to be a challenge. A lot of the sites that are identified in our current housing element are in the floodplain. So that's going to be a challenge for the community to grapple with. The never-ending David on Scott Ranch project in Petaluma, for those that know that project, it's right at the urban growth boundary, zoned and designated for residential, but there has been over the years a huge community opposition to that. So it has now gone from being, I don't know, 100+ units to 28 units and a 47-acre extension of Helen Putnam Regional Park. But we still have a lot of opposition. So navigating that one, working on the final EIR, and we'll see what happens with that. We are also working on our VMT reduction strategies. So Petaluma did adopt a requirement for a 16.8% reduction from the citywide. And we have definitely found that there are a lot of areas in the city that are zoned for residential that now have an issue with VMT because of the new VMT regulations. Did I freeze or did everyone else freeze?
You did.
I'm back. Am I back?
Yeah.
Did you hear what I was saying about VMT?
We heard it
I
all.
could hear you.
Oh, I was just frozen. Okay. Well, you guys were all frozen on my side. So we're working on that, really pulling in. We're continuing to work with Fair and Peers and pulling in, now that it's kind of gone beyond the CEQA aspect of VMT in terms of setting up our guidelines, now looking at some of those strategies for reducing VMT citywide. We also have submitted our application for certified local government status for our historic preservation efforts. We are redoing our permit center in City Hall. So I'm not sure why we didn't have it together to do that for the 1.5 years that everything was shut down. We waited until we started to reopen the counter to start that project, but nonetheless, we are doing that. And we also are going into contract with an architect for permit-ready ADU plans, Petaluma specific. So those are a few things we're working on. And as Tanya mentioned, the climate action focus, and really the focus on existing building to try to help us get to that carbon neutrality by 2030 is a primary focus. So we're really looking at ways to incentivize that, and looking at it through the equity lens, and everything from bulk buying water heaters to on-bill financing systems and the like. So that's what we're up to, and I have about 30 seconds to spare. So nice to see all of you.
Hey, this is David. Before the folks drop off, I want to just talk about SB9 for a little second or two. Been kind of going through that with a fine-tooth comb, and I do want to share a conversation I had with Paul at HCD. So my first thought was, this is a state mandate, of course, and curious to see if there was going to be any kind of credit afforded to jurisdictions as we do our housing elements, to kind of tag off of any units that are anticipated during the planning period, that we could get credit for SB9 units. And while he didn't kick me out of the room for asking the question, but he did say that because I actually view this the same as trying to anticipate how many ADUs you're going to do over the next 8 years. He said basically, as long as there's a justification for it. And I gave him what I would call the Turner version of 5.4% / something less than that. And he said, look, come up with a nexus or some rationale that justifies your analysis, and we won't laugh at you a whole lot. But his point is that, yeah, there should be some kind of recognition of those SB9 units as we go about trying to get our arena. So I wanted to kind of get that out on the table. And he did say that they are going to be coming up with some technical assistance. My guess is that it's not going to happen between now and the end of the year. As far as the city of Sonoma is concerned, we're looking at doing our own objective design standards for single family, as opposed to embarking on objective design standards for multifamily, which there are quite a few people that have actually done that. When I say people, I mean governments. So we're in the process of putting our own urgency orders together between now and the end of the year, so that we can at least get something there. Cobbling stuff from residential standards or guidelines that we've had all over the years, things like variation in roof height, 2-story window treatments, things like that, articulation of homes to public streets, that kind of stuff. So we've got a draft of that going, nothing scientific, but clearly that's something we're going to try to do, and have, like I said, have an urgency ordinance and a regular ordinance to deal with that before the first of the year. So those are my comments for the Jessicas of this world that have probably already left, and Heathers. Thanks.
David, sorry guys, quick question. When you spoke to Paul, did you talk about assumed affordability levels at all? Because the Turner report.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, I didn't, because I think it was just assumed in the conversation. I mean, SB9s, well, I guess I better not say it here. We're on a public forum.
Okay, thanks.
On that, ABAG's, Jane, I don't know if you know the dates are scheduled yet, but 3 meetings are going to be happening between now and mid-December with legal updates on the housing. And then I think there's 2 or 3 special sessions specifically on SB9. And we'll get that out to you, like just yesterday, I think it was scheduled.
With Barb Couts and
yeah,
and the legal people, but the last I heard, HCD guidance isn't going to be till February.
Yeah, so we're going to try to get something for folks out sooner.
So Ada, on that point, I think Barb and David Garcia's presentation was very good for the time that it was prepared. Do we know if people got questions to them? I think, weren't we supposed to get some kind of questions to a group, I forget which, about issues related to SB9 that are going to try to be answered, like in a Q&A?
I don't know what the agreement was on that, but if folks want to just shoot me random questions, I'll make sure they get to Josh and it gets coordinated as part of the presentation, so that at least they know the questions you all will be having.
Yeah, I seem to recall that Josh was trying to put together some exhibits. Did he actually do that, you know, Ada?
I don't know if he's done anything yet. It would be distributed through the planning collaborative. As soon as it gets done, it will be distributed through the planning
All
collaborative.
right, thanks.
I'll go for Cloverdale. Of course, like everyone else, we're super busy, but we're just about to bring an 82-acre annexation to the city council next week. It's already been to planning commission. There's some affordable housing on there proposed from the Dry Creek Rancheria, and then some other land that's not fully planned out yet. We have an affordable housing project going November 2nd to planning commission. That's 80-something units. Of course, our housing element. We're about halfway through a downtown plan update with PlaceWorks. We have a hazard mitigation plan that's finally done and going to city council next in November. Still dealing with the drought despite the rain. The curtailment order is still breathing down our necks, and it's really kind of a pain. And we've got a urgency ordinance passed right now that doesn't allow new connections, which is kind of hard to navigate with all the development that's trying to occur. We're just going to start working on a complete streets manual. We're looking for a site for a dog park. I don't know, Noah, are you still on here? I wanted to ask you about the Robert Smith for code enforcement. I'll call you. We've got to push to get some extra code enforcement help, and he mentioned you as a reference, but you don't have to mention it. I'll give you a call later. We just completed our small cell ordinance, and thank you to the city of Sonoma for doing all the work for us. Appreciate that. We're getting ready to adopt a CIP. This is just some of the stuff. We don't have a city clerk or a public works director right now either. So it's we've been recruiting and with not much success. So anyway, that's some of it. Thanks for Ross. You want to mention anything?
No, that pretty much covers it. Thanks.
Okay. Kevin, here in the city of Sonoma, we use Bob Smith, and he's great. He and his team.
Oh yeah, I think he's a former employee. Is that right? Or
yeah, but we still use him as our code enforcement. So he's
this guy, I'm impressed with the calls I've had with him. I really like him. So I hope council chooses him. We've got a couple other proposals.
Yeah, we'll get city of Sonoma thumbs up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, I guess I'll jump in next. Bunch of stuff, so I'll just keep it short. And if anyone has any questions, I can go in a little more detail. So we are continuing to move forward on our local coastal plan update. Our planning commission just decided that they want to tackle it element by element, one meeting every month for the next 4 to 7 months. So we'll be moving through the LCP, trying to get that forward to adoption. We're hoping to bring updates to our planning commission on a countywide tree ordinance. Very different setting than I think most of you are dealing with in terms of trees, but probably of interest. We're also hoping to provide updates on our vacation rental ordinance. Moving forward on our 3 specific plans, we just got direction to do a comprehensive update to our cannabis program, including doing an EIR. So we are getting the framework ready for a new ordinance and then putting out an RFP for the EIR work early next year. Our planning commission has approved a few zoning code updates that have come out of some temporary things that we did for COVID. So in December, we'll be bringing forth an item to the board that's looking to kind of do away with permit requirements for home occupations and some modifications to the ability for restaurants to do takeout, which requires a use permit at the moment. We recently approved a hotel and affordable housing project on Verano Avenue outside Sonoma. So that we're excited to have that behind us. We've also got the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. It's going to be coming to the Board of Supervisors in September. So I know a lot of you have kind of participated through that process. And then we're continue to work on our housing element and housing sites EIR, kind of leading into a larger scale general plan update, which we hope to start in earnest next year. And I'm gonna stop there, but a whole lot more, and it's too much, but we keep going.
All right.
We'll go next real quick, if that's okay. I gotta cut out of here in a few minutes as well. Things in Healdsburg are busy. We got a lot of large projects that have already been approved that are continuing to move forward in their construction, and needing constant care and attention to kind of keep them moving. We're in the beginnings of trying to get everything together for our housing element update and starting to look at available sites as well as available projects. We actually are fortunate in that we got quite a bit of affordable housing that's about to hit the pipeline here soon. We've got a 110 unit project up at the Sajo Hills Montage Resort area. That's a large piece of land that was set aside as part of that overall project. They are in the throes of putting together a site plan and starting to work out some of the challenges of developing at that site, which is in the wildland urban interface. We've got another 56 unit affordable housing project that is in the early phases of design. That's on a city-owned parcel. That's got some challenges as well. I guess every site has challenges these days. That's why they're left. But that one's got some wetlands issues and stuff. So, but looks like it's in good shape to move forward. SB9, we're also, like everybody else, trying to get our hands around that. Our city attorney's office is looking at some kind of just interim things that we can do here to address implementation. And then obviously we'll get a lot more information from the state as they start pulling together some of their technical assistance. And I have to imagine this will be a little bit like the ADUs, where each year we see some trickling down from the state that requires us to update whatever we do come up with to address this new bill. So the city council is going to be having a discussion on cannabis coming up in November to try and gauge whether the community wants to look at entertaining, whether it's retail or manufacturing, that sort of thing. It's been a discussion that they've been wanting to have for a while that they'll finally get started on. And other than that, we've, like everybody else, we've got a whole host of things that we need to get caught up on, VMT, et cetera. With 2 years of interim directors, we've kind of been hobbling along. Now I find myself about to start in the director position. So I kind of need to prioritize what it is that we're going to jump on, recognizing that we can't do it all at once. So, and of course, I need to find somebody to fill my current position. So if anybody has a great senior planner that they want to lose, or, send them my way. Other than that, that's all I have. It's good to see everybody.
This is Noah and Katati. I'll jump in. Just along those lines, I want everybody who's still here to hear, we are recruiting right now for a part-time position, so half-time, anything from a planning technician to a senior planner. So it's listed very broadly. If anyone's looking to get an entry-level position or get some more life work balance, there's an opportunity here in Katati. So if you would share that with anybody who you know might be interested. We wrapped up our multifamily design guidelines. Those are approved. The second reading just happened last week. We're not really too worried about SB9, just to the point that Scott made. Is like, okay, keep it coming. I'm not gonna, it's not a fire drill for me, because I think it's going to change often anyway. But we do have some multifamily streamlining priorities in our current housing element that we're going to start working on, removing use permits for multifamily housing in like one of our zoning districts. And we'll probably use that to make sure that we're in alignment with SB9 as it's currently drafted. One thing that came out of the design guidelines, you guys, a lot of you know Joel Galbraith. He's been helping us out. His last day here is November 1st. And he came up with an interesting kind of complete streets model called a VERNIF or VUNERF, which is a Dutch word. And you guys will start to hear this. I think our council loved the idea. And so it's basically complete streets, you know, cars equals bikes equals peds, but there's design features where there's no continuous curbs, delineated different types of pavement, landscaping and pedestrian features in these areas intermixed with parking. And anyway, and our council was just like, they pulled it out of the multifamily design guidelines and say, no, make this a standard for everyone citywide. And so that'll be going to the commission on the 1st of November. Joel's running with that. I said, this is your baby. You can at least get it started on the process to wrap it up. But if you start to look into them, they're very interesting. I've heard the city of Arcata may have just adopted a citywide standard for a similar thing. You guys go to like some of these alley loaded projects where that's where all the kids hang out anyway. And the adults are back there barbecuing and the kids are skateboarding and all this stuff. I thought it just really made sense and our council loved it. So after we got past the vocabulary lesson, so it's VUNERF, WOONERF, if anybody's interested in exploring it, but it's kind of interesting. They're very popular in Europe. So anyway, urban agriculture is kind of rising to the top of priorities here. Amazingly, in some of our zoning districts, we don't allow ag even on large parcels if they're residentially zoned. And so that's kind of creating some conflicts for somebody. And obviously it's not in line with our values. We have all these general plan policies that say to support it. And then for whatever reason, our code just doesn't get there. So I think that's going to become a priority in the next couple of weeks. Just thinking about it, that may be another opportunity for RCPA to kind of look for some coordination if certain communities aren't supportive of that, just given what Sonoma County is known for and where we're at. Housing element kick. Go ahead.
When you say urban ag, are you talking about gardens or animals, or what are you looking at?
All the above. So right now in our very low density zoning district, which we have, 10-acre parcels with one house on it, you can do animal keeping, but not crop production. And it's just like, how did this happen? Yeah, it's odd. And so of course we have this resident who literally brought in a farmer, moved them to her property, wants to do the right thing, sustainable food production, support all these local food nonprofits. And she comes to us at the last minute and we're like, I have to tell you no. And you can imagine how that's gone over. And so there's some behind the scenes stuff with regards to why I didn't just make a quick interpretation, but it's getting fast tracked to straighten out the code. Kicked off our housing element update. Jane and the collaborative folks were super helpful. We presented that to the council I think it was last week, a week ago, Tuesday. Great presentation, went really smooth. It was just an hour, but we got it going. We're starting to do the advertising. We had already done a fair amount of baseline work on the engagement, but now we're running. So that's out. Hotel, we've had this hotel approved for a while, as you guys can imagine. Wasn't a lot of folks rushing to build that during COVID. It's starting to get some legs under it again. And so we'll likely get that going to the commission in the next few weeks, or I'm sorry, a couple months. Katati Station is still kicking around out there trying to figure out a way to make it work. That's a multifamily project right next to the train station here in Katati. Yeah, Kim, you're probably familiar with that project. We had a warehouse approved, 50,000 square feet. That's a pretty big project for Katati over in the industrial district, and the developer is already moving forward with the second phase. So that's going to be coming in. So that's great. We have a developer saying they're going to drop an SB 330 multifamily project on us in the next week or two, over 100 units on the properties on 116 next to Lowe's. I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around what really that does differently. So if anybody has insight on SB 330, I know the county's done a lot of work on it. So Scott, I've been looking at your guys' information. That was super helpful. We also have a 50 unit subdivision coming in at the south end of town on Old Red. If you guys have seen our Kessing Ranch subdivision, that's wrapping up construction. This is basically the same thing. It's like 5 units to the acre, just vanilla, single family, but it's good. It's new housing and it's a big piece of property. It'd be good to get it developed. Cannabis, we're also going to be rewriting our cannabis ordinance likely this year. some of the issues that we, as things are crystallizing with regards to how it's really going to happen, we have some holes in our ordinance we just want to clean up and fix. And one of the things that we did is we allowed 0 taxes if you're a distribution business, assuming that was going to be associated with other types of uses that would pay taxes. And so we're seeing we have all these people just trying to thread a needle and be only distribution. And then the tax code actually doesn't even allow you to do that if you do any other activity. So it's really clunky. And we're going to clean that up amongst a couple other things. And that's Katati.
Well, I can jump in here as Katati North. Anyway, this is we are really busy too, like everybody else. Just to give you the 3-minute elevator speech here. The general plan, we just took the climate change element to the city council, and they kind of really, I think they're very supportive of it. They honed in on the building energy side with wanting to can be a little bit more stringent than state law with our codes, electric vehicle charging. Also a lot of discussion around carbon sinks. That's where kind of the tree ordinance and master tree plan came up, is kind of having that as a carbon sink. Also like preserving surrounding agricultural lands, maybe partnering with the county on wetland preservation and ag preservation and tree preservation, just to have that carbon sink. So that was a good discussion. So that's been through a study session with the Planning Commission and City Council. The next study session we have for the general plan, which will be our last one before we finalize our text document, is on racial, social, and environmental justice. And so that is hopefully going to happen in November. Then we'll be wrapping up the document and kicking, well, we've already sort of kicked off the environmental document, but we'll be able to kind of make more progress on the environmental document at that point. Also on the housing side, we have a transitional housing project that may be coming in, taking advantage of some of the state streamlining laws with kind of non-discretionary permit processing, which makes us think that we need to get our clear and objective design standards for multifamily done here pretty quick. Fortunately, this is a pretty attractive project that they're coming forward with. Also on the homelessness side, we just put in a home key application to hopefully provide some homeless shelter options in the city. So we'll see if we get that funding. Then on the development side, we have a university district specific plan, which is about, I think overall it's about 1,300 units, and we have about 800 of those already built, and we just approved the last 3. Well, we will be approving the last 3 development area plans. We have 1 more to go in what we call Vast Oak North, and that's the area that's north of Heinbach Creek. And so that will be approved soon because they're just building homes as fast as they possibly can right now. And our affordable housing complex for that project is already built and fully occupied. That's about 208 units of affordable housing. SOMO is breaking ground. That got approved by the council earlier this year. And we have a design review board set up for that to kind of accelerate the approvals for residential projects. Let's see, on the commercial side, we have some commercial activity going on the kind of the west side of 101, kind of off golf course. We have a big industrial project trying to get reapproved. They already got approved last year, but they've redesigned their project. They need to go back to the Planning Commission, and we need to do some additional environmental work. And then we have a apartment complex going in next to that, and some commercial activity adjacent to where the Amy's drive-through is. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that's probably good enough for now. Thanks.
All right, I'll do Sebastopol real quick. Enough time is ticking here, but let's see. We are just about to start our e-permitting project, get that kicked off. We have just released our draft local hazard mitigation plan that's going to our Planning Commission for review next Tuesday. We also have a Calder Creek naturalization project we're working on. That's through Ivis Park, but also looking upstream and downstream a little bit more. Could possibly lead to a creek ordinance update, since Sebastopol, probably like most other communities, has the no structures within 30 feet top of bank, which is really more of a localized flooding FEMA thing. Says nothing about paving or treated wood or any of the habitat within that area. So looking for, that'll probably lead to some of that stuff. Our gas station ban is moving forward. It's been to our Climate Action Committee and our Planning Commission for study sessions. So we're drafting up that ordinance, and we'll probably go to the Planning Commission for hearing in early December. Let's see, we have a 10-unit mini townhome project, which has been in the pipeline for a very, very long time, but it is finally going to Planning Commission for hearing November 9th. And we are working with Tanya and a Civic Spark Fellow, Phoebe, on a climate action framework, which kind of builds on the climate mobilization strategy for the county with our Climate Action Committee. And we do have a subcommittee of council that was just formed, Committee of the Unhoused. And I know they are also, similar to Roanoke Park and some others, looking at options for RV parking, safe parking, that kind of stuff. But we did actually have, and it was in the news recently, our Planning Commission had approved a use permit for 2 we call Conestoga huts, kind of temporary shelters for safe parking for people who may not have vehicles. And those were are just being erected at as an addition to a community church, which also already has a safe parking program. And then I'm also working on RFPs for our objective design standards and looking to get VMT stuff going on. Had a couple conversations, and thank you, Chris, for your conversations back and forth with you. That's super helpful. And our housing element, we had our kickoff. 4Leaf is doing that. We had our kickoff end of September. We have for those of you who live in Sebastopol, Jeff and a few others in the area and Most County, check out our survey on the city's website in the planning page. We'll have that out to social media coming up soon, but diving into that. And we've got a few other things, but those are the big things. Oh, we actually had a preliminary review. Habitat for Humanity is interested in a 4 townhouse project on a vacant site across from Safeway in our town. So they went to the Planning Commission, got some good feedback. They're going to be going to our design review board in a couple weeks for input on the design and tree issues.
Trees are real.
Well, when we get into property line trees and you do something that removes a neighbor's tree, it's not as much of an issue there as it is on some other sites, but they do need permits in our town. So.
I can just give a quick update for Santa Rosa. As most people probably saw in the paper, our council adopted an urgency ordinance to regulate short-term rentals. So that's currently in effect. And then we'll work toward a comprehensive ordinance, I'm assuming within the next year. We have a joint study session with our commission and council scheduled for November 16th. And this will cover kind of where we're at with our housing element update and RHNA numbers, and we'll also address changes to state housing law. And then we're planning or on schedule to move our housing element through the public hearing process about a year from now. And then we continue to move forward with our general plan update. So this is a comprehensive update, which also includes an update to our climate action plan. We're finishing up an equity priority engagement work plan, which will supplement our community involvement strategy. So an update on that will be going to council next month. And then we plan to have our preferred alternative go to commission and council late winter. Like everyone else, we're trying to digest all the new housing legislation, and I think a few others mentioned updates to objective design standards. So we currently have some for multifamily housing. I think David mentioned they're kind of looking at it from a, maybe we need to have some single family objective design standards in place. So we'll start work on that soon, likely, or at least determining if we need them. And then kind of on the development review side, really busy there as well. We've been getting a lot of questions about SB 9, and we have a few transitional and supportive housing projects, so that's exciting. A few more SB 35 projects. I think we've already approved 3 or 4. So we're getting lots of affordable housing units, which is great. And then lots happening in the downtown as well. Thanks.
Is that everyone? Emily, can you give us an update on SMART?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I don't know that I have a whole lot to update. You may have heard that we were selected a new general manager. His name's Eddie Cummins at our board meeting yesterday. So that's really exciting news for SMART. And we're excited to have a new age at SMART with new leadership. We don't have any immediate service changes planned right now. And mainly that's due to hiring shortages. It takes a long time to hire and train new conductors, but we're hoping sometime in the new year, February or March, we can, if not restore full service, at least get back to our original schedule. I think that's all I have for SMART.
Terrific. Thanks, everyone. Ada?
Yeah, I sent an email out to you guys and just wanted to reiterate that there's several webinars coming up and they will be recorded. So, no need to attend. But 2 that might be of interest, and no, I don't know in particular, I was thinking we have one with the cleanup grants. So site assessment, planning and cleanup grants, that's with the Department of Toxic Substance Control. So almost any urban infill site is going to need some kind of assessment. And so if that might help folks get some of their sites to feasible, and it's a good early on funding. The Center for Creative Land Reuse has a consultant, is the consultant to the department specifically to help applications. So help you strategize with your application. And we've worked with him before, he's really good. So if you can attend the webinar, there's definitely going to be, it's going to be recorded and I'm happy to make that introduction. So for those of you who have sites or those of you who have housing departments, you might want to talk to your staff or economic development departments, your staff might be interested in that. Also, we have the public lands. It's kind of a webinar around the disposition of public lands. I don't know if people have seen some of the announcements in terms on the state level. 3 stadium sales were stopped because they didn't follow kind of the new regulations. So if you have land, and we've sent to school districts and special districts also, but if you have organizations or you have public land that you think you're going to be transitioning to private use, that might be a useful webinar to participate in. And then we have several REAP webinars that are housing element specific coming up, but I think the housing laws one is the most important, and those dates just got set yesterday. So you'll be getting an email next week on that.
Ada, this is David. Again, quick question. For the appeals on the 29th, are there any staff reports coming out ahead of time, or is it just kind of come show up and we'll talk about them kind of a thing?
You know what? I haven't been paying attention to that. I know the appellants get the report in advance. I think the agendas are posted, so I think they are put out in advance so that you can see them like in the official number of days. But let me check on that. Are you interested in any in particular?
Just those in Sonoma County.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
All right, thank you.
Jane, talk to us.
Oh, so many things. Let me start with the SB9 stuff and what's coming out from the collaborative and when from ABAG, the larger collaborative, i.e. Josh. So in the next week or so, a legal summary of the bill, a planner summary of the bill, and a graphic that Josh has prepared, you may have seen, on what's allowed. Within a few weeks, so by mid-November, PowerPoint and staff report that you can use to educate your decision makers, FAQs, and later that month, a sample implementing ordinance and sample forms for jurisdictions towards the end of the year. And we don't know yet when we're going to be able to get those RHNA assumptions out because we want to have them cleared through HCD as well, and a handout for the public. But those are anticipated products that are coming. If you think there's something else that would be helpful, please send me a note or send Josh a note and let us know. I also wanted to mention that we have office hours with Goldfarb Littman scheduled on this topic on November 3rd, November 15th, and December 3rd. So that's
I think those are the 3 dates. I wasn't clear. I
Yeah.
sent a note through.
Yeah.
So they're office hours, not meetings. Okay.
Correct, office hours.
Sorry, guys.
That's quite okay. So that's what's coming out on the SB9 stuff. On the rest of the collaborative work, we are Four Leaf is in contract with Lawyers Committee as a sub-consultant to, and they've started on our regional housing assessment, fair housing assessment, the regional one, and that's going to give you all the factual basis and the AFFH stuff that you all need for your housing element. So all 16 jurisdictions. We've also been banging out those doodly videos for the jurisdictions. If you haven't gotten one and you want one, let us know. And we need an information from you for the last slide, which is how to get involved. So we need your housing element website. We need your generic housing element information sign-up list, email, and your contact person and email. It's just a YouTube link. People can post them on their websites, and the Spanish version comes out about a week after the English version. So you can wait and post them both at once, or you can get started. But let us know if you want one, and let us know if you don't want one so we won't work on it. That'd be really great. The website. So we are in
Jane, you're muted.
Thank you. I don't know how I did that. We're working hard with Wild Awake Creative, the folks that did the Let's Talk Housing website for San Mateo County and also Santa Clara County to get the Let's Talk Housing Napa Sonoma website up. And if anyone has some spare time this week and you want to look and tell me, look at the sample one that San Mateo County has done and tell us what else would be helpful for you on that website, that would be great. I do want to point out that if you go to connect to your community from this main page, it'll take you to a page with each individual jurisdiction. And if you click on those, the ones with the fancy pictures takes you to the jurisdiction's website that's developed. If you don't have a developed website for a housing element update and you don't have the staff to do it, then the collaborative Wild Awake Creative will, for a few $100s, create one for you. And if you click on one of the ones that it doesn't have a picture, it'll show you what that's about. There's a really, really cheap one on there that just kind of has, hey, here's the schedule. We're rolling forward. Here's who to contact. We want everybody to have a website where they post all the upcoming meetings and all that kind of stuff, but we realize that not everyone can do it. So if you need to rely on that main website, regional website for your housing element website, then let us know and we'll put you in touch with the people who are going to make that happen. This will be rolling out about mid-November. And so after that time, we'll be able to do the individual communities. We still need help in establishing an equity working group. So anyone who's got ideas or people who should be on that or good parameters, let us know. And what else do we have? The introductory kickoff meetings that we've done in Sebastopol and Katati and a couple other places. We have more scheduled. If you haven't scheduled that yet, let us know. It's a really basic summary. It covers Housing Element 101, the new laws. We don't talk about too much about SB 9 because that's really inflammatory to a lot of our elected officials. So we're kind of downplaying that. And then it goes through some of the basic demographics in your community, the ones that are meaningful, and then what the schedule is going to be. So we need the schedule and that information from your jurisdiction. We'll go ahead and produce that. And the hope is that that's video recorded, and especially if it's by Zoom, right? It's easy. And then you have that on your website as well, so people can go back and watch it later. And that's what I've got from the collaborative.
Questions for Jane? Okay, thank you, Jane. Thanks, everybody.
Actually, this is David again. Sorry, Jen, I have a question for Jane. You said that Josh might have prepared some diagrams that might be floating around somewhere. Did I misunderstand?
He was kind of preparing one while, on the fly while we were having a meeting, and he's anticipating that will be out actually this week.
Cool. Should we just plug into the collaborative website, or how does that?
Yeah, the collaborative website isn't up yet, but yeah, if you email Elliot to the group email, we'll make sure that you have it. It will come out through the collaboratives, but I'm going to be on vacation after in about an hour. So I'll be gone. I'll be gone this week and most of next week. But if you tag in with anyone else in the Napa Sonoma collaborative, they can get that to you as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, I don't remember us voting to allow you to go on vacation, Jane.
Yeah, well, fire me.
No, can't do that.
Do I hear a motion?
Well played, Scott.
All right. Anything else from anybody? Any public comment? All right. Thanks, everyone. And yes, Ada. Oh, you're waving goodbye. Okay, let's all wave goodbye. And
Bye, everyone.
thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.